Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of my live tea tasting. I've got a great one for you, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on my water right away because I am excited about this. This is a tea I've not had before. I've had a version of it, but it's been a while since I've done an oolong, so I'm going to go today with tea Kwan Yin. Oh, there we go. It looks a little blurry to me, but trust me, that's what it says, tea Kwan Yin. Uh, so I'm going to talk a little bit about oolongs in general because researching this one, I actually came up with a few. Hey Ma, welcome. I came up with a few interesting facts, and I am like thrilled to talk about them. Um, but first things first, this tea Kuan Yin is traditionally when it's produced, they make it with orchid. I don't I don't know how much to talk about before I actually talk about the process itself. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. But this is one of my favorite kinds of oolongs. It's usually super smooth, and really. Did my Okay, yeah. Just wanted to make sure that the kettle was going because I didn't hear anything, and I was like, okay, well, if here I am talking and there's no heat, it's kind of just a waste of time. But thankfully, I was able to take a look, and there it is. All right, so anyway, I'm doing tea Kuan Yin today, and there was a couple of things that I've discovered. Well, not really discovered, but I learned about while researching the way that it's made, and it's very interesting. Oolongs in general, but specifically the tea Kuan Yin, can take between 8 and 10 steps to produce, to ionize. It's one of the longest. It's one of the longest processes in tea because of each step, and they take their oolong production seriously. So oolongs generally come from either Fujian, China, which is where this particular one came from. It also comes from other oolongs come from Taiwan. So this, I mean, I know I've mentioned it before, but for those of you who are just still learning about this thing, oolongs are processed so that they're in between green teas and black teas. So you're gonna have a little bit of a darker flavor than an oolong. I mean, sorry, than a green tea, uh, but a lighter, more vegetal taste when it comes to a black tea. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna wait until my water is done. I'm not going to brew it on a full 212 degrees because this is not a complete black tea. I'm gonna do it at about 200 because it's oxidized to be a little bit stronger than a green tea, but not strong enough to be a black. So I'm going to still steep it for 5 minutes, but I'm going to keep the temperature slightly lower, and that at about 200 degrees. That 12 degrees does make a difference. So I'm going to follow that instruction instead. Oolongs, if they are tightly wound, they can take the heat up to 212 degrees, but in this case I'm not familiar with this particular brand, so I don't want to risk over steeping. I'm just going to leave it, I'm going to play it safe there for this one. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this out, and I'll show you what it looks like. Did it pop? Yeah, it popped. Okay, so I'm going to, before I pour it out, I'm going to show you guys what the tea looks like. It's very tightly wound. I can get a better specimen. There we go. This one's nice and big. Now you can see the leaf. They roll it and roll it and roll it really super tight. The leaves are really, really big, so I'm expecting to see a lot of unfurling. you're going to see a huge difference when it comes to the before and after. So in this case, it's not going to look like much. I'll show you how much I'm putting in. But you see, it's all the way down there. You know how I like my my tea kind of strong? This one, I'm not really trying to show you guys. Yeah, there's too much reflection. But you can see it's like super duper low. I just put 1 teaspoon in it. And you're going to see that the flavor is going to come out. And once the tea starts unfurling, it's going to be, the size is going to make a huge difference. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. Karel, welcome! Haven't seen you in a while, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour the water out, and I'm going to steep it for the full 5 minutes. Generally, they ask that you steep it for about 3 at the very least, like between 3 and 5. And if this is a really good quality tea, you'll get a few steeps out of it. Whenever I do milk oolong or jade oolong, I get like about maybe 4 good cups out of it before it starts to oversteep. But you have to know how to do it just right. Otherwise, you can mess it up on the third cup, and then you kind of like lose out. So while my 5 minutes are going, I'm going to talk a little bit about the processing. Now, this, as I mentioned before, it could take between 8 and 12 steps. I wasn't able to find a list of 12 steps, and I really wanted to get Alba, welcome. I really wanted to get all 12 steps for you guys, but unfortunately, I was not able to find it, but I will talk about the processes and stuff. Okay, so it starts with the picking. Now, picking the leaves is very important. You're going to want to have a high quality leaf. It's going to be on a stem with 3 leaves. I talked about that before with the white teas. There's a 3 leaf, or in this case, a 4 leaf process. They're gonna look for new leaves, but the leaves that they pick are gonna be older, so they don't want any buds. They're gonna keep picking just from the stems. You're gonna have the stem and 3 leaves that's actually gonna look something like this, if that makes sense. And that's really hard on the wrist. But yeah, once they pick it, the next step is the wilting. Now what they'll do is they'll sun dry. They'll leave it out in the open air for a little while. They don't want it to become completely dry, but they want it to wilt. So you'll have the leaves. Usually they come out as kind of stiff. They won't always be completely open, but they will be semi open, like they're just about to unfurl. So once they take the leaves, they'll put it out in the sun and let the environment wilt it a little bit. They'll still want it to be soft and wet, just not crispy, basically. So once they get the right texture, they'll start the next process, which is called shaking. I'm gonna read this a little bit because it's a little bit well, I'll tell you, it's a little bit involved. This actually does involve shaking the leaf loose. So how they describe it is shaking the loose leaf is the most essential and skilled part of making oolong. This is a highly intuition-based knowledge that is gained through experience. Through mass-produced tea, though mass-produced teas are usually timed, handmade oolong requires a maker to stay up all night, continuously monitor the water travel status. This refers to the degree of water feed from stems, then evaporated. Oh, there's Quackhead. So I'm going to pull this out real quick and let it sit in there. I'll show you what it looks like in just a moment. Where was I? Okay, so this is the part that got me a little bit confused. It said, this is referring to the degree of water feed from stems to the evaporated out that are then evaporated out of the leaves to determine the next hand, which is the next technique to be used. Ideally, a well-fermented leaf should look yellowish green in the center and dark red around the edges. So there's a lot of things to consider in the shaking process. They are literally shaking the leaf off the stem, but on top of that, they're also checking the leaf to see how much water is actually in it. And this is going to be a very, very involved process. So you're going to have those watchful eyes taking care of the quality. So the next step is the fermenting and wok frying step. So basically they do heat the leaf in a wok and they move it around, shake it so that it doesn't get burnt, but gives it the kind of warmth that it needs so that it retains the water, doesn't burn it, but also maintains that texture. Now the next step is the rolling step. Now they take the hot leaves out of the wok and they roll it and roll it and roll it and keep on going until it's super duper tight. This can take quite a while. I've heard that sometimes it could take like about half an hour, like just doing this to each leaf, and that's crazy to me. So then the next one is baking. So at this point, what they do is once they get the balls rolled just the right way until it's like super duper tight, then they put it in an oven and baked until the outside is dry. But they try to keep some moisture in the leaf itself so that it doesn't lose that flavor. After that, you get rough tea. Let's see. I'm gonna read that as well because it's quite involved also. It says rough tea is referring to the tea that is the character defining steps completed. That was the first steps. But still refining steps undone. So it's midway through the process. It can mean different things to different teas. In this case, oolong. It usually refers to the unroasted leaf with the stems still unpicked. But in traditional tea Guan Yin, rough tea is unroasted and still has its green color with a bright flowery profile that cannot be mistaken for a light tea Guan Yin. So then the next stop is the roasting and finishing. So they begin to roast the leaves and just refine everything for the final product. They want to heat it up, keep it nice and crispy so that it holds its form when it's shipped. Let's see. They talk about metallic toasted rice profile. Oh, that's just the flavor. I'm just doing a quick, yeah. So after it's roasted, they can pack it and send it out to wherever it's going. So as you can see, making oolongs and just tea Kuan Yin in general is a super duper involved process. So I'm going to show you guys now what it looks like. It's just, you know what? I'm going to leave that there for just a moment because it's it's dripping, like really, really bad. So I'll leave that in there for now. I'll show you guys in a few minutes. I'm just gonna pour some of this out because tea guanyin is just amazing. Ooh, spilled a little bit. You can see it's got a very light color, almost clear but not quite. There we go. Hey guys, alright, I just got a message. I'm not sure if you're seeing this. If you're seeing this, like, send me a message or something. Yeah, it's telling me that I'm not seeing the comments. Yeah, like, this is weird. All right, let me see. I don't know why it's doing it again. Yeah, I saw. All right, let me close out of here and come right back because I'm not seeing anything. Okay, I will see you in just a moment.